Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the San Rafael City Council. Today is Monday, October 21st. I'll request the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Bushy.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Yadenskalani.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. All five of us are here this evening. We met in closed session prior to this meeting, as well as one following the last council meeting on October 7th. I'll invite the city attorney to report out if there is any.
Good evening. No reportable action was taken at either meeting.
Thank you. Welcome to the meeting, whether you're here in person or zooming in and watching. As always, we like to start by thanking our staff that helps our city to run so well day after day. And especially, we want to celebrate the team of the quarter for 2024 Q2. And the winners, and this is selected by other employees, the winners were the Pickleweed Library team, Alejandra Barrios, Maria Renteria, Cheryl Ortiz, Min Nguyen, and Leah Ashkenaz. So their nominator stated that the team has shown resilience and flexibility in recent months. They've had some staff shortages, but they have still showed up for the community. The team is very proactive and they focus on enhancing user experience, continually seeking ways to refine and elevate our service delivery methods and improve the library service. And as we know, the library at Pickleweed is very, very well used. So hats off to team of the quarter, the Pickleweed Library. Reminder that national, state, and local elections are coming up on Tuesday, November 5th. If you haven't received your ballot, they were all mailed to all residents of California. They arrived in early October. So if you haven't received it, or if you want to vote in person and don't know your polling place, please contact the Marin County Registrar of Voters located at the Civic Center. You can also go online and get more information about how to follow up with them. And finally, we always like to include a land acknowledgement as part of our opening. And I do want to highlight that if you haven't been over to the Alborough Center at Pickleweed Park, there is a gorgeous mural that is currently being painted. And we had a ribbon cutting and a launch, as it were, with the artist a couple weeks ago. And we are really pleased that the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria tribal representatives came down and were part of that initial celebration. The mural is incredible, and when it's done, we'll be sure to let you all know so we can go down and appreciate it together. The land acknowledgement that we include thanks the original caretakers of this land. San Rafael is traditionally home to the Coast Miwok people, many of whom today are tribal citizens of the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria. We honor their contributing involvement in stewardship practices that benefit us all. We're glad you're here, and I will turn to the city clerk to describe how people can participate.
Thank you, Mayor Kate. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and streamed live to YouTube. For members of the public wishing to provide public comment, displayed on the podium and the projector is a timer to help you stay within the 2-minute time frame. You're invited, though not required, to introduce yourself and say what part of San Rafael you live in, or if you're from outside of San Rafael. We do offer closed captioning for this evening's meeting on Zoom. You can select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable that feature. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, you can email me at city.clerk@cityofsanrafael.org. Thank you.
Thank you. I will turn to the city manager for her her report, and then I'll turn to my council colleagues.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I want to start with talking about our Homelessness Solutions Working Group. This is the last week to express interest to participate. This is a group that will shape the city's Homelessness Solutions Action Plan for 2025 and will serve as community messengers. The meetings will be, we'll have topics, so there'll be an education component for the working group and then some discussion. So the topics covered will be the legal challenges, shelter demand, services, funding, roles and responsibilities for addressing homelessness and enforcement activities. The group will meet 3 times over the next 6 months. The second Tuesday in November, January, and March. It will be a virtual style working group webinar format so the community can listen in to the discussion. The forms are due this Friday, the 25th. We have some great interest, but we encourage anyone who is a resident, property owner, or business owner to apply at cityofsanrafael.org/departments/homelessness. There's also an opportunity the County of Marin is looking to fill 2 open spots to represent San Rafael on their priority setting committee. So this is a committee that reviews applications from local nonprofit, community-based organizations and provides input on how federal and state funds are allocated for affordable housing, public services, and infrastructure projects. That process is open until November the 4th, and you can apply by visiting marincounty.gov/PSC. We also have a few upcoming events. This Tuesday, October 29th, the Planning Commission will have a hearing on the Northgate Mall project. So it's a very exciting milestone for that project. It will be at 7 p.m. in council chambers, and you can also view and watch online via Zoom if you can't make it down to participate in person. We also have a really fun Halloween event this year. The first time, it's called the San Rafael's First Ever Treat Walk. So it's at B Street Community Center, and it's an opportunity for kids to walk around and collect treats from different organizations. The police department will be there, police and fire, the Golden Heirs, Marin Bocce, soccer stars. So they'll be in different rooms and kids can walk around and pick up their treats and do all kinds of fun stuff. There'll be pumpkin decorating, face painting, all that good stuff. So that's 4 to 6 on October 25th. We also have the 36th Day of the Dead celebration, which will occur on November the 2nd from 3 to 9 at the Alboro Community Center. There is overflow parking at Bahia Vista Elementary School, and there'll also be a free shuttle from Marin Health and Wellness Campus on the other side of Kerner at 3240 Kerner if there still isn't enough parking. It's an amazing event. I hope to see all of you there. For more information, visit dayofthedeadsr.org. And then lastly, I just wanted to announce the grand opening of Alex's Playground and Discovery Garden at Niven Park. In Alex to read Quambach's memory, his family is hosting an event honoring his adventurous spirit. His family created this space to celebrate Alex's memory and benefit the community at large. So it's Saturday, November the 2nd from 10 to 2, Niven Park, which is 5 Berry Way in Greenbrae.
Thank you. I'll turn to my colleagues. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several meetings to report out on since we didn't meet at the end of last month. So starting Sunday, September 22nd, I attended the West End Neighborhood Association annual picnic on Naomi. Thank you to the leadership of the West End as well as staff for accommodating and ensuring a safe street closure and capturing the energy of the community. On Wednesday, September 25th, we held our monthly Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members meeting. This year I'm presiding as president. Under my presidency, I'm hoping to continue to curate speakers and learning opportunities for all of the municipal leaders in our county. We had an update provided by Leila Thomas, who's Deputy Director of Housing and Grants Division. She provided an update on how things were going with the housing bond, which obviously did not go onto the ballot this time, but opportunities for how we might collaborate in the future, as well as a presentation provided by Chuck Green, who's the Cedars co-executive director. And we did have our meeting at the Cedars campus. I'll call it at the perimeter of San Rafael and San Anselmo, a beautiful campus. I was joined by Mayor Kate and Councilmember Jorns Galati. On Thursday, September 26th, we had our Economic Development Subcommittee report joining us were leaders from the Marin Convention Visitors Bureau who gave us a report on how they're operating, as well as Community Benefit District update. I was joined there by Mayor Kate. On Monday, October 7th, we had an evening of remembrance that I joined Councilmember Kurtz at Rodef Shalom 1 year since the October 7th attack. And on Thursday, October 10th, I attended the Canal Alliance grand opening and ribbon cutting. Mayor Kate gave a speech among many other dignitaries in the community. I do want to give a shout out to the CEO, Omar Carrera. Among all the speakers, he's probably the most modest, leads an amazing team, has the support of the community, so much financial backing that came through behind a beautiful vision. And I continue to look in awe, I think we all do, at what Canal Alliance continues to do. And it makes my heart swell to think about what that organization is accomplishing. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz?
There is a lot. I'm trying to go through the list. First, I think one of the things, I'm sorry if I missed it. We had for the fire department, the pinning ceremony. We were all there for that. So, a great event, and thank you for inviting us and having that be a really memorable afternoon. I've attended the Homeless Policy Steering Committee meeting. We also have a subcommittee meeting specifically for older adults. That's with the county and many of the service providers. We had the Marin Community Clinic's ribbon cutting, which is the opening of their new facility at the Vivillon location on 3rd Street, right? 3rd? Yes, 3rd. So, and Mayor Kate was there and spoke, and that was a really good, nice event. The Canal Alliance grand opening, attended a MEC community grouping meeting. We've had a number of the Board of Supervisors, the county and San Rafael conversations around our city and county partnership around homelessness and the work that we're doing there, really focusing on the grant funding that we have received recently and how we're working together to improve the conditions for everyone in that area. I was invited to attend the Marinwood Development Open House. This is about a new development that's happening in that area, but a number of the questions that were coming up are very similar to the questions that we're receiving as well. So they did a really good job in terms of having all the different county departments and other agencies represented in talking about the new development that they're looking at in the Marinwood area where the Marinwood market is. I attended a conference. Yes, I'm on AARP's distribution list for Livable Communities workshop, designing for people of all ages. It was actually a very interesting 2-day conference with a number of those recordings available. And I'm still going back and forth, but watching a number of them, which has great examples from people and communities from across the country. We had the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority board meeting, and that's moving forward, and we're all hoping for lots of rain. And China Camp Heritage Day. And that is it.
Thank you. Councilmember Bushy?
I just have a few things. I've been out of town due to a death in the family. But I was able to attend a couple of meetings. I attended the San Rafael Sanitation Board meeting where one of the primary topics was their ongoing negotiations with the Central Marin Sanitation Agency to develop an operating agreement. I've remained in touch with our representatives there, and we are working forward on that matter. So that was well in hand. I also was able to meet with the Montecito Area Residents Association, MARA, on issues of concern, primarily on some interest in developing a park or park-like attributes in their neighborhood, and also some of the proposals for new developments in that area. And finally, Marin Transit has a land use issue with us. It's item 8A. You'll hear more details about that. I remained a part of that as the representative from the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members on the Marin Transit Board. And I've met with the executive director to discuss that item, and we'll be meeting with her tomorrow as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Yoranz Gulati.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kate. It's as we were saying, it's a full month or a couple of months. So I go back all the way to September 21st. So that's when Mayor Kate was talking about the event at Pickawheat, like the launching of the art project, and I cannot wait to see it. It's going to be fantastic. And right after that, I went to Bahia Vista. They were having their Hispanic Fiesta, celebrating the Hispanic month from September 15th through October 15th. And that was really fun as well. And then I went to downtown for the 4th annual Hops and Vines stroll downtown. And it is the best thing ever. I mean, we have such an amazing community. So being in downtown and seeing all our neighbors walking around and having fun, it was amazing. So September 24th, there was a meeting between Voces del Canal and police. And that's always, we are continue engaging police with the community to talk about issues and opportunities. I was going to mention the MCCMC with our new president for the year, with Vice President Hill. September 30th, we have our task force for our parking meeting, and that continues to evolve. So evaluating the possibility of permit parking right now in the Canal and Spinnaker Point and Bay Point. So October 1st, there was a scoping meeting to present plan improvements by TAM, Transportation Authority of Marin. And that's like improvements along Bellam Boulevard. And then right after that, there was like community conversations in the Canal with Supervisor Dennis Rodoni. And that was also a great conversation, updating on the county, on the city, but also hearing from the neighbors. October 2nd, we have our BPAC meeting, is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Thank you very much, Mayor. October 8th through 10th, I attended the CCA's annual conference in Washington, D.C. I was invited by MCE Clean Energy, which is, I'm a board member representing the city of San Rafael. CCAs are our community choice aggregators. This is the first conference in 11 years. I was very surprised to hear that only 10 states in the United States allow CCAs. So there's definitely more work to do around that. And just, to mention that MC Clean Energy was the #1 CCA established here in California. So they're doing an amazing job, and we just need to continue that growth around renewable and clean energy. Also, while I was in Washington, D.C., it was a great moment to enjoy the public transportation and see all the great biking lanes and pedestrian access that they have. So it was always with our eyes open to see what else is happening. Last week, I had the pleasure to attend the Cal Cities Conference with City Manager Christine Lodovich. And some of the highlights, there is new regulation around manufacturing. The manufacturers that they have to really pay attention about plastic is coming in 2 years. So more around that. Implementation of EVs around fleet replacements for cities and governments, but also implementation of EVs by the public. I attended workshops around tenant protections, homelessness, and there were some cities recognized by some projects like public art in Concord, youth engagement. So I always love attending this conference. Is really inspiring. So October 19th, I attended the Nuestro Canal, Nuestro Futuro, our canal, our future community event. And some of the highlights, the city was there like in full swing with the sea level rise. Transportation Authority of Marin had again options about Bellam improvements. And I was able to see in a camera that I was driving on the exit of Bellam and then going through some roundabouts. So anyway, it was very interesting and it was great great place to gather feedback from our community. And of course, what would you like to see in the canal in the future? And I just love these events because I make connections with new neighbors and really hearing some of the issues and some of the opportunities. And then I ran to downtown because they had the Dia de los Muertos car parade on Saturday as well. So full month, but really exciting. And I cannot wait for November 2nd.
Thank you. So luckily, my colleagues mentioned many things, so I just have a few highlights. I do want to reiterate what Councilmember Kurtz already mentioned about the badge pinning for the fire department. A critical part of that was acknowledging our new chief, Chief Roman. He had been the interim, and now he's officially our fire chief. So I just want to underscore that we're delighted that you're here, continuing to be here to lead our fire department and lead our community. There were others that were promoted as well, but it was a great event. The council was here as the chambers were full, the families were here. It was incredible. So thank you, Chief, for that. We talked about the city manager talked a little bit about homelessness in the working group. We did have a webinar on October 3rd. If you missed it, the good thing about webinars is they are recorded. So you can go to our homelessness, go into the City of San Rafael website, put homelessness in the search bar, and right on the landing page is the webinar, and you can watch that. It has a lot of FAQs, and really the city outlines and discusses the city strategies and the actions that are taking place now and into the future to help people resolve their homelessness. I started the meeting by thanking the staff, and I have to do that again. We had a room full of San Rafael High School AP government students, and I spoke with them for a few minutes, but they also spoke to us to me, and they presented issues that they saw in the city. And then the staff was amazing. They went over to the public safety building, met with police, they met with fire, they met with digital, they met with community services. So hats off to Lydia Kay and Walter Gonzalez in the city manager's department who made it happen. And they loved it, we loved it, and really having our students understand what we do civically and hopefully get them excited, and hopefully they'll be inspired to have a life of public service going forward. As you know, I'm your representative on SMART, the Sonoma Marin Area Rapid Transit. I had lots of notes on it, but in the interest of time, I'll say SMART continues to have monthly records, continuing. We were a fledgling agency before the pandemic hit, and those numbers continue to rise. So great things going on at SMART. TAM, Transportation Authority of Marin. Right now, the countywide transportation plan is open for comments. So we've been working on that for over a year. The comments are due early November. You can go to the TAM website. Anyone can give their comments, and it's really looking at across the county, across all the jurisdictions, what are the priorities that we see in terms of the funding that TAM is able to obtain. In November, the final CTP is what they call it, the Countywide Transportation Plan will be prepared. And in December, at the December TAM board meeting, we'll have the board will have the ability to adopt that final CTP. So if that's something you're interested in, now is the time to offer your comments. And then finally, I've been very involved along with Councilmember Janelle Kelman of Sausalito. We are the representatives on BCDC. They're the organization that looks at conservation in the Bay. And we've been part of the Bay Adapt Elected Task Force. And BCDC has been very busy because the Regional Shoreline Action Plan, which is required by SB 272, those guidelines have to be adopted before the end of the year. And the jurisdictions have some concerns about the enormity of the current RSAP, terrible acronym, but RSAP as presented. So the city provided a letter with formal comments, as did Cal cities, as have other jurisdictions. We are 100% doing behind the projects that are needed to mitigate and adapt to sea level rise. And we want to be able to use the great work that has already been done in San Rafael in doing so. So more to come on that as they will adopt their final regional shoreline adaptation plan framework in December. So thank you all for what you've been up to and continue to be up to outside of the dais. We always want to have the opportunity for the public to comment on the city manager and council member reports. So if there's anything that you'd like to add on what you just heard, now is the time. Not seeing anyone, I will close the public comment on that and move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that the council would like to hold? Not seeing any, I will open up the public comment for the consent agenda, and that is items 5A through, H. So if you'd like to comment on any consent calendar items, now is your opportunity. Okay, not seeing anyone, I will close the public comment and request a motion on this item, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy,
I, with the exception of item A, which I recuse myself from as I did not attend that meeting.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Eden Scolati.
And I will also, can I recuse myself? Yeah, and I will recuse myself for 5A since I didn't attend the meeting. Thank you.
And Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0, even with the 2 recusals. We have a special presentation this evening, and I can't wait to hear from MarinMOCA. But before we invite you down, we do invite the public to comment on the presentation from MarinMOCA regarding their relocation to San Rafael and upcoming events. And I realize in my recap, I did not talk about the fact that I was at that launch that you had a week and a half ago. So hopefully you'll fill us in on that. But first, let's invite the public to comment on this item. Not seeing anyone. Come on down. Let me see who it will be introducing it, or we'll just, okay, welcome. We are ready for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Jody Roberts. It's a pleasure to be here and introduce myself to you. I am the Executive Director of MarinMOCA. As Mayor Kate said, I'm here to introduce you to our museum. In case you haven't noticed, the very bright magenta panels of stucco that are just a street away. We are open and we are currently inhabiting about a third of that building. So it's a relatively small space, but we're very excited to be there. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, so please come whenever you can, and we'll be doing temporary exhibitions there through the end of 2025. As promised. There you go. We already opened our debut exhibition. It's called Opening the Mountain. We had about 350 people come through over the course of the day. It was packed. It was hot. It was fantastic. Also met with a flurry of online activity. I showed you in the slide before, we had a great write-up in the San Francisco Chronicle. There will also be features in the IJ, in KQ and KQED, and in SF Arts coming up in the next week or so. So do please come see the exhibition space. We're excited about it. And we'd love to welcome you. So MarinMOCA is actually not a new organization. It's been existing very quietly on Hamilton Field for about 20 years in Novato. And quietly is definitely the operative word there. It was founded and run for and really by a group of local artists, a small group of local artists, a fantastic story of artists who are looking for an exhibition space, lobbied for space with the city of Novato, and really kept the place going for 20 years. But it's a little bit of a different mission than the board of directors and I are currently pursuing. So just to give you my background, I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona. Out of high school, I moved to New York and was at NYU for undergrad through PhD. I had curatorial positions at MoMA in New York and then at Stanford, bunch of other places, helped to found a nonprofit called Art and Climate Action that does sustainability planning for art spaces. And I've been at MarinMOCA for about 18 months. And I can say that as a curator and now as a director, I am sincerely a big believer in the vital force that museums can be as public institutions. But to do that, they have to be public facing, public addressing, and public serving at every turn. So a very different message and mission from concentrating on a small group of artists to how do we bring more people in, and especially people who don't necessarily think of themselves as devotees of contemporary visual art yet, definitely yet. So I love museums because they spark and nourish conversations They traverse conversations in different art forms, whether it's performance or the visual arts, and they do it in so many different platforms. So I live in Marin, and when I think about what kind of museum I want in Marin, I think of a place, wouldn't it be cool if we could have dance performances like the one you're seeing here at the Met, food events like Sunday suppers that they do in Sausalito, at the Headlands. My partner is born and raised in St. Louis, and every year they do a huge outdoor film festival. This is an incredibly diverse and often very segregated city. Everyone comes together for the film festivals and the free museums. I imagine the people participating in these events, they're old and they're young. They have a wide range of racial, ethnic, and economic backgrounds, but they're coming together for a shared experience in a single place. And we all know how important that is right now. And we all know the detrimental effects personally and socially if we don't have that. So, to put it really simply, great museums are built, they're made by the visitors who value and use them. And that's why I'm so excited to be in downtown San Rafael, the density of the population here, the number of cultural experiences that already exist here. I can't wait to really build on those ties. We know that in order to become a top-notch museum, MarinMOCA has to be welcoming and warm and convenient and enticing with dynamic programming that speaks to a wide variety of people. When I think about great museums, even in the Bay Area, I think of a place like Oakland Museum, who has done so much to do public outreach. You're seeing an image here of their food truck night during the summer. Outside of the Bay Area, I lived in Long Island City in Queens for more than a decade. PS1, which is an outgrowth of MoMA there, had a huge effect on taking what was a totally industrial area and turning it into the, quote, Brooklyn of Queens. And I think about a place like MoCA in LA with a really flexible space where you can do large installations of incredible artwork, not just painting and sculpture, but performance as well. And the fact is, I know that I am not the only one who's excited about diving into the unique cultural offerings of Marin. Just a week before we opened in San Rafael, because we love to do a lot back to back to back at MarinMOCA, we held our annual flagship event known as the Art Forward Party on the lawns in Novato. It was, again, absolutely packed. We more than doubled the sales of tickets that we had previous year in 2023. We, in fact, were turning people away. We literally did not have enough seats to put on our lawn for this event. And not only was it a great fundraiser, but it was a proof of concept that people want this type of cultural programming in the North Bay. And I know that MarinMOCA can do it, but it certainly wasn't our achievement alone. Our programming was done with partners from across Marin. You'll recognize a couple of these as being, the Lions Ballet at Dominican, San Rafael based, same with Youth and Arts. We've done quite a bit of programming with Youth and Arts already. I am meeting with Elizabeth Setton later this week. We were fortunate enough to sponsor a film at the film festival this year, so I can't wait to help do my part to build up this cultural district that you've already got established here. But I also wanted to say that I'm excited to work with you all as city council people and your staffs. Usually when I come to these events, I have to bring the presentation of, we know that art spaces are great for social connections and economics, but you all know this already. This is literally borrowing from your own strategic plan. And it's such a welcome change to know that you already know that this is vital for San Rafael. But often what goes unsaid in thinking about the good that art spaces do is that they are also central to building engaged and effective and optimistic citizens. So I just want to bring you a couple of examples of artists I've had the opportunity to work with recently who have done exactly that. Last week, I had the opportunity to talk with a local artist named Lena Wolf at the Belvedere Tiburon Library, full house. You all actually have a bunch of Lena's posters, you may not know, on this building, although they're old, so I brought you updates. Lena is a visual artist. She is in public collections of major museums across the country. But in 2020, she wanted to do more, and she started working with designers and distributors of posters to create these designs that are attractive and welcoming and big enough in their concepts that people can, regardless of their political views, find something to latch on to. This is a photo. This is a photo of Lena and her partner in Berkeley. And what people don't necessarily know, even though they recognize the posters, is these posters are now on 7 disputed states within our current election. They're all over California, and her fundraising efforts as an artist have collected over $250,000 for grassroots initiatives for voting. Bringing in the example of Nigel Poor, a local photographer who was doing classes at San Quentin and got the brilliant idea, because artists always think out of the box, come with new solutions, new ideas, to do a podcast. I'm sure many of you have heard of Ear Hustle, the podcast that she hosted along with inmates in San Quentin, that it had a tremendous effect in drawing attention to the benefits of arts and higher education within prison systems, and have garnered a lot of attention nationally and actually influenced policy. Or something very dear to my heart, because it was my colleagues from Art and Climate Action that made it happen. Very recently, in the past year, San Jose, the city of San Jose, and their Climate Smart program decided to partner with the arts institutions of San Jose in an attempt to broadcast the goals and the resources available for meeting their climate goals. They have a very ambitious goal of being carbon neutral by 2030, but they were having trouble letting people know how they were going to get there. So they use their art spaces to advertise these are incentives for putting batteries or solar panels on your building, or this is how to work with your sanitation department on waste. And then artists became the actual spokespeople for that initiative. It was so successful, it garnered a spot on PBS NewsHour, and they are now taking the program to San Francisco and Oakland. I'm just going to put it out there. We could easily do this in San Rafael. But also just bring it up as another example of, yes, I want MarinMOCA to be a place where people gather, where we're building those social ties, but I also want to work directly with you to help further your goals and learn what your constituents want and how we can be part of that. So come on over. We have an event on Saturday, an artist talk with the artists who are part of Opening the Mountain. And then there will be a special reading by Pulitzer Prize winning poet Forrest Gander, who's also local. Let me know because it's already sold out. But we will make sure there's a seat for you if you're able to make it. And there will be many more public programs down the line. So thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I love that you are here in our downtown and you presented the bigger vision, as we are one of the only 14 cities that's the California Cultural Art Districts. You pulled out from our general plan, but it aligns also with those goals and objectives. And the exhibit, as you said, it's smaller than MoCA that's right here, but it is well worth it. So I know my council colleagues will definitely be knocking on the door to check it out. So thank you. And it's always free. So just so the microphone can pick that up, it's always free. And it was great to meet your curators, Natasha and Asha, who had put together the images and the work that's on display. So thank you for coming and presenting. This is a new area. I think that San Rafael wants to continue to embrace. So we appreciate you coming down and talking more about MoCA. So thank you. We're going to move on to a public hearing. We have 2 items. The first one is a request to amend the City of San Rafael's downtown precise plan. I don't know if it's City Manager Lilovich or Director Hinkle that will be introducing this item. Director Hinkle, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Kate and council members. Micah Hinkle, Community and Economic Development Director. I'll be presenting this agenda item tonight. Before you is an amendment to the downtown precise plan, removing 1030 3rd Street as an eligible historic resource. A little background, in August of 2021, the City Council approved the downtown precise plan. The plan included an update of downtown properties that are or have potential to be included as historic resources. 1030 3rd Street, which was the former Wells Fargo First Federal Bank, was identified as an eligible historic resource by the city's consultant. In 2023, the property owner agent had commissioned a historic resource evaluation. This was a much deeper level evaluation that actually determined that 1030 3rd Street site is not eligible for listing as a historic resource. City staff did peer review this updated, detailed historic evaluation and is now recommending that the site be removed from the listing of historic resources in the downtown precise plan. A copy of that historic resource evaluation is included in the staff report along with staff analysis. The Planning Commission reviewed the item on September 24th and also recommended that City Council amend the downtown precise plan. So with that, staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution to approve an amendment to the downtown precise plan that removes all references designated 1030 3rd Street as an historic resource. So with that, I'm available for questions should you have those.
Thank you. I will see if there's additional follow-up questions. Vice Mayor? Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Director Hinkle, for the introduction. Can you comment maybe one layer deeper of what was flawed about the consultant's analysis to designate it as a historic resource?
I think when they looked at it, if this is going through the report and our actual evaluation that the city's consultant did, I think they did a kind of a cursory review of it, and they really focused on the architectural firm. Now, there's no doubt that the architectural firm that built this building, amongst others, was considered one of the preeminent, architects of that era, of like modern era. But once they dove deeper into it, they looked at the building and it really was altered enough where it didn't actually retain the historic resource. Plus, there are actually better examples of modern architect of these type of buildings that are throughout the Bay Area. So it really went a little much deeper layer to say that even though it was done by a pretty prominent architect, it was not considered what we consider the best of the master class of an architectural resource that should meet eligibility standards. So that's what I actually anticipate. There are a few studies within the downtown where we did this kind of cursory review. And then as we keep getting looks at potential buildings, I think we're going to go a lot deeper. We may have to actually come back and evaluate our approach on the downtown precise plan historic resources evaluations, given this particular issue.
No, thank you for that. And that's where my next question was going to be, because when I did the count of what that report came up with, it was, I think, 35 total. And so my concern is, I think what you're tapping into is that we're likely to get that. So yes, I concur with, I know that's not on the agenda, but I concur with that direction to, rather than doing one-offs, that there is a deeper look at the downtown precise plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? Yeah, Councilmember Bushy.
Sort of a high-level summary question. Is it fair to say that while we're making corrections to several determinations that had been made previously, we retain our deep and abiding commitment to preservation of historic resources?
Yes, no, I would agree with that. The overall intent was for preservation. Circumstances, it went up to a much deeper level and actually found it did not meet the eligibility requirements that allowed to remain on that list as a historic resource.
So we're just refining our use of the same standard. We're not changing our standards. We're just refining it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good question. Okay. Not seeing any additional questions. There might be members of the public who have questions or comments. If you'd like to comment on this item, now is your chance. Not seeing anyone. I will close the public comment and I would entertain a motion unless the council members would like, it's pretty straightforward, like to have additional comments. Vice Mayor, would you like to?
Sure. I move that we adopt a resolution approving an amendment to the downtown precise plan to remove all references that designate 1030 3rd Street as an eligible historic resource.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Aye.
Councilmember Scarlatti,
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 5-0. Also, originally under the public hearings, under 7B was Dominican Valley. It was removed from the agenda because the appeal was deemed moot, in that the appeal was about whether the letter was incomplete, and it was found to be complete by staff, so it's been removed. But just to be clear, as Dominican goes through the process, they will have many opportunities for the public to come and weigh in, so that I didn't want there to be any misunderstanding. By removing this, it means that the project will not be able to go through the public process, because it will, with lots of input. And if you are interested in that, do subscribe. There is an update. If you go to City of San Rafael, put in major planning projects, put in Dominican, and you can receive updates and know when it will be coming before the Planning Commission as well as the council. The next item, agenda item 8A, Marin Transit potential land use in the Canal neighborhood. This was put on at the end of last week, and I guess Director Hinkle, you will say a few words prior, and I'm happy to say a few words as well, as I felt it was very important to have this included
Sure.
on our agenda this evening.
Thank you. Once again, Director Hinkle, Community and Economic Development. So this is an informational report on Marin Transit's request for a general plan 2040 conformance determination and a potential land use in the Canal neighborhood. So Marin Transit has been seeking a location for their bus maintenance and charging facility for bus fleet electrification throughout Marin County. They've been looking for this for some time. Sites with size and power are limited in the county. It's just really hard to find sites of acres and then also have power capacity. Marin Transit actually entered into a contract to purchase 1075 East Francisco and have deemed it for public purpose. As part of Marin Transit's due diligence process and required procedural process, they actually requested a general plan conformance determination from Community and Economic Development Director. So myself actually made that determination. And the determination was issued on September 13th and determined that the bus maintenance yard and charging facility would not be consistent with the general plan land use designation of community commercial mixed use. Taking a step back, site history-wise, the site has been part of a longstanding community and economic development efforts. Enough where this actually goes back, I worked on this like 23 years ago as a city planner. It was a former Dodge dealership. It had a lot of issues. We're trying to get it cleaned up. It's one of the few sites that is very visible to the community and is appropriately set up as regional commercial or in one of those targeted areas for job creation or revenue generation. Flash forward, the economic development activities paid off, and the site was approved as a hotel site in 2020, and was anticipated to generate like $700,000 annually in TOT revenue and have a good job generation. It was really a really economic development win, but the hotel did not materialize, and that's just giving hotel finances backside of COVID. The market changes, and the owner elected to sell the property to Marin Transit. So as mentioned before, the site is one of the most visible sites in San Rafael and is one of few sites that could support regional commercial auto dealerships, large-scale commercial type uses, and or hospitality uses. And hence, that's why it has a community commercial mixed use designation. It is actually the community commercial mixed use designation actually is one of there's only a handful of properties in San Rafael that have that same designation. The other property is Northgate Mall. So you can see kind of the regional element of why that designation is such a key one for the city. That's why. This is an informational report. No council action is requested. It is being presented to council as potential significant land use change for a key commercial property in East San Rafael and a transitional gateway into the Canal neighborhood. And lead agency is Marin Transit. So with that, I'll conclude staff's presentation.
Thank you. And just to clarify, this is on our agenda this evening as we believe there needs to be a public conversation. And given the report and given the staff report, it is clear that Marin Transit has the optionality and they're signaling that they will overrule our general plan and there would not be a public process. So we felt it was important. This is an issue I haven't talked to my colleagues about. The Brown Act prevents us from talking about issues like this. So this will be an opportunity for us to hear from each other, for our community to come forward with questions and concerns. And again, Marin Transit has the legal right to overturn our general plan, but we're hopeful that by asking questions tonight, as well as bringing up concerns, that a public process can be followed. So that is why this is on our agenda tonight. No decisions are being made. And what I'll ask of my colleagues at first is just to ask questions, and to be fair, there might not be questions that Director Hinkle or the city attorney can answer. And I want to be clear, it's because it has just been put on. This came in last minute. We just found out, the city just found out that Marin Transit was moving very quickly on this. So normally when an agenda item like this is brought to us, staff has all the answers. So I want to be very clear that in this case, you might be asking questions, saying this to the council, that there's no immediate answer right now, but there are things that we're signaling that we would like to know. So we'll start out by just having your questions. You can put any comments to the side, and we'll open up the public comment period and hear from the public about any questions or concerns they have, and then we can bring it back and then further have any additional comments. So as I said, I haven't been able, other than with Councilmember Bushy, who's our Marin Transit representative, but through MCCMC, haven't had the opportunity to hear from the council and us, each other as colleagues. So with that, the Vice Mayor, I will just start off with you if there are questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Kate, and thank you for the preamble, Director Hinkle. I do have a few questions. So you mentioned that, or I think the mayor mentioned that Marin Transit is signaling that they would use a legal remedy to basically override your determination. What is that legal remedy? And I ask that maybe taking a contextual step further out, that, I think there are many times that the general plan and even the housing element has been in the news lately as having a lot of teeth. And this seems like an instance where our general plan has been potentially defanged. I'm curious, like, what is the legal mechanism that they have?
I think I'll take that one, if I may, please. The district is citing 65402 of the government code. And subsection C of that says that a local agency can, if it receives a consistency determination from somebody like Director Hinkle that says that the proposed use of property is inconsistent, that the disapproval may be overruled by the local agency. While we've been in this meeting, I've been doing reading of the Public Utilities Code, which sets forth at sections 70000, the enabling legislation that enabled the county to create the Transit Authority back in 1964. And I have just within the last week been in touch with the attorneys for Marin Transit, and we've been talking about this issue. And based on what I'm reading tonight, I really want to talk further with them about it, because now I'm unsure about the authority that they are suggesting that they have. So I want to spend more time looking at this. Again, the law under which they were created was created some 60 years ago. And I'm not sure that it contemplated the way that they're interpreting 65402 of the government code now. So, but I do think it's important for us to have this conversation tonight, because they've told us that that's what they think and that's what they're planning to do. One suggestion that we had made to them was to consider, even if they were going to go through with the purchase, to defer making this decision that they were stating, I'll say threatening, that they were going to make, which would be to overrule the city's determination, because I didn't read 65402 of the government code as requiring them to make such a determination prior to closing on the purchase of the property. I got an email from one of their attorneys today that she's reading the statute differently, but there's some more the lawyers need to talk about, but lawyers don't always manage to solve problems among themselves. And right now, the position that's been made very clear to the city is that the agency is looking at moving forward, closing on the escrow, and then making this determination. And again, based on what I heard today, making the determination before they even close the escrow that they're going to, quote, overrule the city's general plan consistency determination. So I'm sorry, I don't have more of an opinion for you right now, but I'm playing catch up. And as we speak, reading 60-year-old sections of the Public Utility Code.
No, it's helpful. I think even the sequence of words that you provided, I think I want that to stand to the public as evidence of how sometimes labyrinthian these situations are. That in some situations, housing and community, the state housing department can come down and really bring a lot of metaphorical hammer down on communities, and yet when we have a consistency determination, it can be so seemingly readily determined to be overruled. So I thank you for sharing it that way, because I want the public to be aware of just how sometimes counterintuitive these things can be. Thank you.
Additional questions, Councilmember Kurtz?
I do have a number of questions, and I actually shared these in advance, but I do want to go through them up so the community hears sort of my thought process around some of this. And based on my understanding, I did go back and watch the Marin Transit meeting from August 3rd, where you spoke, Councilmember MOCA spoke, and Councilmember Bushy was on the dais at that point. And I know Councilmember Bushy said no in their recommendation too. So I think I'm trying to understand, and I'll direct the question to Director Hinkle. When was the first time we actually heard the city was informed of the project or the sale? I'm not even sure how to reference it.
The first outreach actually came in response to their written request for determination. So outside of that, there really hasn't been a lot of communication from Marin Transit about moving forward on this property. Now, I see typically what we would do, and this goes for any developer looking at land, a lot of times there's a due diligence period before you enter into a contract and purchase, that you would actually outreach the local planning agency, in this case it's us, and ask kind of these basic zoning and general plan questions. So that's a lot of times when I provide that information earlier. This is the common practice amongst the development world. So it was surprising to get their inquiry after they entered into contract and also getting authority to purchase.
And so that was on August 6th.
I'd have to double check the records, but we had a small window to actually respond to their timeline. So I had to get it done before the September 15th. So it was like 30 days.
Okay. And the mayor, you spoke on it, just so I understand the timing, you spoke on it August 3rd at that meeting. I just want to try to figure out the schedule. All right. So this is a private sale, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And since the hotel project fell through, have there been other interests in that property that we're aware of?
I've had some general inquiries on that property from different regional, I'd say auto dealers. We've actually had a lot of inquiries from auto dealerships on multiple properties through San Rafael, including this site. But since it was never put on the open market, there was never really any pursuit of the property.
Mm.
But I do think that site, even as its history as an auto dealership site, still is desirable. And I have actually had inquiries from different groups who would be interested in that site. However, the property sales, the acquisition conditions, those I don't know. That's something that they would handle amongst themselves. But there is interest on this site for regional commercial.
That's interesting, because it's so interesting to see, like, car sales these days seem to be at malls lately than on dealership lots. So with the request, I'm wondering, so the request went to you, at what point would the determination go to the Planning Commission?
In this case, it would not go to the Planning Commission. It was just a procedural request from a government agency to the city, and that we responded to pursuant to the government codes that are called out. I do anticipate, and this is what was been difficult about it, even for the requests that came in, it was kind of non-committal about what they're doing. They're saying, we want to acquire property for public use. We think it might be this, but it could be something else. And that's why the letter, if you see how it's written, it says, well, if it's going to be a, corporation yard repair battery facility, that would be more of an industrial use. But there are other uses that Marin Transit could pursue that would be compliant with the general plan.
And the city in the past has done rezoning
That's
potentially. I mean, there is that opportunity. That is an option.
That's correct. So-
Okay. And so I'm part of that confusion. That's one of the reasons I went and watched the meeting to understand that it had to do with the receival of the grant, the federal grant, the $31.5 million grant, and the reference that looking for this, as I think you had mentioned as well, they've been looking for a site. And I'm sure, Mayor Kate, you've been on Marin Transit for years, and as well as Councilmember Bushy, of looking for sites across the county of what would be feasible in order for prior, because that's to go for the electrification, but to also be able to receive this grant, the 31.5 million plus the matching 15 million. Right. Okay. And then I just wanted to see, so you've designed from a conformity perspective based on our general plan, and 2 different chapters within the general plan. And I was wondering your thoughts on looking at it, the general plan on the economic vitality element, which it does seem, and I understand there is a huge change of revenue perspective when we look at this because this is a prime piece of property from a revenue perspective and what that revenue is and can mean to a city. But I'm wondering just in terms of the economic vitality component of our general plan.
For this determination, I didn't go that deep into it because I wasn't even confirmed about what it would be, nor as Marin Transit provided any details of, there might be an economic report they generate or create that could call out consistency, but it's undetermined at this time. But I was really focused on the land use determination. Is this appropriate use? And really when looking at this site, it really is set for a commercial use. That's the designation for it. Regional commercial with specific land use types. The corporation yard or the repair facility, battery charging would be more appropriately situated in a light industrial use or industrial use, which is consistent with even where Golden Gate Transit is located. Some of the other agencies do have those type of corporation yards, including our own, is into a light industrial land use designation.
And the property that we're talking about is surrounded by light industrial.
It's actually primarily commercial designated around there, but there are light industrial uses historically. So, and then as you go further along or as you back into the Canal neighborhood or further south, the zone does change into light industrial.
Right. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bushy.
I did some calculations based on your $700,000 a year in transit occupancy taxes. I get a net present value over 20 years with a 5% discount rate of $9 million for that site. My question to you, assuming Google's arithmetic is correct, is there any use that Marin Transit could put to that site that would generate a similar amount of funding for the city?
I don't believe so.
And based on what we surmise will be their use, what would be the tax generating capacity of that function?
I believe they'd be tax exempt, so there'd be no taxes paid on that as a public agency. So,
and by taxes, we're talking property taxes, sales taxes, transit occupancy taxes, obviously. And so it'd basically be 0 versus $9 million net present value.
In that scenario, yes.
Okay. All right. And what about one of the wonderful things we heard about this evening was the Museum of Contemporary Art and the synergy effects of having that art institution join our cultural district and how they work together. What would be the synergy effects of a bus garage?
I think It varies. And this is really, it's a hard question to answer because really I think Marin Transit is best suited to answer it. But I will say there is a lack of synergy when you actually put a governmental corporation yard in this particular location, just given what's around there and how it connects really the main portions of East San Rafael. This is an area of transition. It really is high visibility. When we look at like types of uses that would like take advantage of that visibility, for me, a bus corporation yard would not be in that list. However, hospitality like hotel or an auto dealership where they rely on that passive visibility, high level visibility. So,
So the valuable attribute of that property is not something that Marin Transit can realize.
no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lorenz Gulati.
Yes, thank you very much. I recognize that you might not know the answer. But I believe it was when I was attending the meeting at the beginning of August, there was a mention that Golden Gate Transit has enough space to actually host all these 40 buses and maintenance, but the agencies are not connecting with each other. So I don't know if you have any answers to that, or maybe that's a question for Marin Transit.
I think it's a combination question for Golden Gate Transit along with Marin Transit in terms of utilization of land. Golden Gate Transit actually owns a large piece of property out for Anderson. That if you look at utilization factor of that property is probably underutilized. But there's also an opportunity for synergies along that line. I know it was likely explored by both transit agencies, but how they've come to terms or not come to terms, I think that's something they've been discussing with each other.
And I thought that they also had like the piece of land in Novato, or is just the one on Anderson? I thought the one that they were talking about was the one in Novato.
I'm unaware of the assets hold of Marin Transit in terms of what would work for them.
Okay. Yeah, Golden Gate. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just had a couple follow-up questions. I don't know if you're going to have the answer to this. If Marin Transit decides to overrule our general plan and our general plan process, has that ever happened in Marin County before? And I say that having been on the dais for 12 years, a planning commissioner, 10 years before that. So in my 20 plus years, I've never heard of this. So that's why as a planning person, I consider myself.
I would say our anecdotal research in San Rafael is that it has not occurred. I don't think we can speak 100% accurately to the rest of the county.
And really to the city attorney's earlier comments, I don't know how much legal case law there is around it because agencies don't tend to do this. It's not, I didn't even know it was something that could be done. I'm wondering if you could just do a high level description, the difference between Marin Transit, Transportation Authority, Marin and Golden Gate. We use these terms interchangeably, but as I'm hoping that we're going to direct the community to this conversation because this is part of the public process we want to have. Someone could speak to that because it's a little confusing. I'm happy to answer my own question, but I'd rather have you go at it.
I don't want to take a step back because I'm going to get it wrong. So I'll defer.
Some a bushy answer.
Yeah, I think it's probably better. So
yeah. Go ahead. You want? I'm happy.
I don't have an answer on the different jurisdictional pieces or requirements of each. I mean, I have my layman's understanding of it, but I haven't gone that deep on our transportation systems and different authorities of Golden Gate, Marin Transit, and TAM. So.
Oh, sure. We can tag team this.
Yeah.
The Transportation Authority of Marin has responsibility. They are congestion management agency. They fund a lot of roadworks, actual construction of roads, and that they have much to do with actual transit. It's more about roads, and planning. The Golden Gate Transit District is a super interesting district. It's unique in that it is, it's the Bridge, Highway, and Transportation District. It started off as the bridge, and then it expanded into providing transit, primarily buses, which Councilmember or Vice Mayor Hill and I used to ride into the city back when we did that sort of thing, as well as the ferry service. They fund the ferry service. It's a super interesting body because they take the revenue from the bridge crossing tolls and use it to fund transit. Golden Gate District does not get any funds from sales tax. In contrast, Marin Transit is solely funded by sales tax revenue. Measure A is their primary funding source. Their focus is on local transportation. And so it tends to be more what we call the transit dependent folks, school children and low income people, workers in our community. Marin Transit has a super cool arrangement with the College of Marin. If you are a student at the College of Marin, you get a pass to ride on Marin Transit buses to encourage the riding of buses rather than parking in all the neighbors' lots. So it's more of a locally focused transit agency, but it's completely separate from Golden Gate. They get their money from completely different sources. And as the changes have occurred in the transit world, with two examples of it sitting up here, it has impacted the two agencies differently, and they have different visions of the future. So, is that high level?
No, I think that was helpful. So thank you for adding that in, because it leads to my second question. If the Marin Transit can override and disregard San Rafael's general plan, why couldn't that same action, maybe this is for the city attorney, why couldn't they override and go to Golden Gate's existing lot, wherever it might be? Like, how come that override, if they can have that same action of ignoring an agency's, planned, adopted plans, why can't that be done for another transit agency?
It's a great question. And I keep reading and rereading the statute. I mean, the thing that's kind of odd about it, and I'm writing to my colleagues over at Marin Transit right now, killing two birds with one stone while I'm listening to the discussion. Because the section immediately before the one that they're citing, subsection B, talks about a county acquiring real property, and it doesn't, it requires the same thing. It says a county can acquire property in a city or a county, another county, which is odd. And then it calls for the same thing. Then the operating planning agency has to make a consistency determination. But when a county does the acquisition, it isn't given this overruling authority. That authority is only provided to a local agency. And then where it references a local agency, which Marin Transit is asserting that it is, and I'm starting to wonder whether it is as I'm reading this statute and I'm reading Marin Transit's enabling legislation. It says the local agency can't acquire real property in any county or city if such county or city has adopted a general plan until the consistency determination is made. And then if it's a local agency that's doing the acquisition, then it provides this overruling authority. And then it says local agency means an agency of the state for the local performance of governmental or proprietary functions within limited boundaries. Local agency does not include the state or county or a city. So there may be an easy answer to this that I'm not aware of, but I don't. I don't know that it is a local agency. As I think about how it was created by the county, it isn't populated by anyone other than Board of Supervisors members and a couple of City Council members. And as I'm reading this, in answer to your question, if the Golden Gate Transit facility was in a general plan of the city, then again, it's not clear to me whether they could do that or not. The questions and my review is just raising more questions for me.
Right.
So
No,
another reason why I would hope they would go a little more slowly so we could investigate.
right. Well, that is takeaway because that we're just focusing on the legal aspect of it. And obviously, it's so much bigger than that in terms of ignoring the public process. And then the last question, really following up on what Councilmember Kurtz was talking about, the confirmed land use designation is commercial, correct? And what you have said, or your conclusion was light industrial would include a bus parking lot, which is basically what this is. And that we do have zoned light industrial in our city, but in this place it is commercial. And so it's the land use, that's what they would be overriding. And so it's not all the other narratives or the elements that we have in our general plan. It's really that legal definition.
Yeah, to clarify, is really is the bus maintenance, like the corporation yard, the repair facility, the charging pieces. If they had a transit center like the one we have downtown, that would be different. That's more of a commercial use for access to the public, where this would be a closed off, basically repair yard for buses only that are owned by Marin Transit.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm sure there are going to be more questions as we all puzzle through this and think about it together. What I'd like to do is open it up to members of the public if they might have their own questions or even comments. Now is the opportunity, and we welcome your participation. You are invited to say your name and what part of San Rafael you live in, but you are not required to do so. Anyone like to speak?
Greetings, Ross Bishop, live in Spinnaker Point. As I listen to this, there's components that appear to be legislative. There appear to be components that are legal. What you're asking for now is components that have to do with the public. And this is a new topic for me as well. So I'm just kind of cogitating that if there was a component that came from the public, what would that look like? Under what circumstances would input from the public sway Marin County? Because it sounds like most of the paths have to do with legal processes and legislative processes and stuff. And if the public get involved, what's our objective? How are we looking to contribute to this? And under what circumstances would they, Marin Transit, listen to that and have that be a component of their decision making? Because that would help define the action of people that I would reach out to.
Thank you. Good question. Well phrased. Some insight on that, but we'll wait till we hear any other questions or comments on this item. Okay, not seeing any. I will close the public comment. That's an excellent question. How does the public get involved? And I'll just start by saying that's why we're having this conversation, because right now there's no requirement for the public to be involved and for Marin Transit to override the general plan. So, and the second part was, how could they sway the decision making? It's been made very clear to us that they're signaling what their intentions are to be, unless there are other legal implications, or if there are other things that we can talk about tonight, another path forward. I will say, and I'm going to turn to my colleagues, but I can't restrain myself. For me, if we have a public process, because your question is just exactly hitting the nail on the head, what we're asking for is a public process to discuss it. They could either change the project to what Director Hinkle just said, so it meets the commercial requirement. You can change it by adding in a micro transit hub. They could add in another element, so they would change the project, or they would change the general plan through a general plan amendment. When Councilmember Kurtz was talking about his ordinance, but it's really through a general plan amendment because it's through the land use map. So there is a path forward for having a robust public dialogue about the acquisition. At this point, they're not required. As far as we can tell, all the other city attorney is working on, but from where we sit today, there isn't any. So I know you're going to have more comments. I will have more too, but I had to say that because there is a way forward, but it's not being embraced at this point from Marin Transit. Vice Mayor, your thoughts after hearing questions?
Well,
concerns?
taking a step back and just naming the intersection of many things here, there have been elements of revenue that we would not otherwise have. 700,000 a year is a lot. Just to put that in context, that would fund a huge chunk of what we do with the SAFE team. We otherwise don't have a funding model for that. And many things can be bought with 700,000 a year. There's a visual component. As was stated, it's very visible from the freeway. It's very visible as you move through a very busy part of San Rafael that people often frequent to do business, to live. There, as was raised by a community member who gave public comment, there's a legislative dimension to this, and there's a legal dimension to this. I am glad that we are giving the opportunity for the public to engage. This is something that I would hope is not pushed through a potential technicality. I say potential because it seems like our city attorney is looking deeper at it. So I do hope that this does inspire more robust consideration. And as we take an even bigger step back, we have 27 transit operators throughout the Bay Area. And as was pointed out through Councilmember Bushy's testimony, these are not easy things to unravel. What I mean by that is there's no easy button just to say consolidate. Where the money comes from, what the charters are vastly incompatible to just say consolidate. And yet I do know that there's probably a rational part of everybody that says, well, we should still find ways to do so for the sake of optimization of our collective tax dollars. So I urge for continued dialogue and restraint by Marin Transit to allow for a more robust public dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you. Some of this conversation sort of reminds me of like navigating between neighbors where they're each threatening each other to take them to court. And it just doesn't seem right. So no one likes surprises. Well, actually, I don't like surprises. So for whatever reason around this whole thing with the property, this specific property in this discussion seems like a surprise. So I don't know exactly how we got to this point because we have participation on the board. We have engagement with Marin Transit on an ongoing basis. We know everyone who is on their representation. So I'm going to leave that to the professionals because it just so many times these things are a break in communication. And it seems like there's a break in communication, and I'll just park my psychology hat over there. So I want to focus on what I see as three things. There's the sale of the property, right? There's the sale of the property. There's the award of the grant, which I believe is driving some of the urgency around this. And the need for the electrification of the Marin Transit buses, which they're under a lot of the same state requirements as we're under around electrification. And it's probably the right thing to do for electrification. We know it is. So first, the sale of the property. I'm not sure it falls under our responsibility in terms of, we don't know, like they could just purchase the property and not do what we're thinking of, right? That is one of the paths that could happen. We don't think that's the path that's going to happen because going back to the grant. But this is a private sale between an agency and somebody who's selling the property. And I don't think we've gotten involved in that. And then in terms of that, what we've been taught over and over and over again, at least for my experience on the council, is we have to let the public process play out. The process plays out. We're not involved until we have actual plans. We're not involved until it goes to different committees and all the rest. So I feel like the conversation between Marin Transit and a private sale is just that. The second one is the award of the grant. This is a huge amount of money that Marin Transit has received. And normally we're here on the dais celebrating the partnership with agencies who receive like this level of grant and working together to make it best for our residents, best for the city, meets the needs of the agency, we're all working together. I'm not seeing that happening. And again, going back to the original, I think it's a break in communication. I'm not sure why we're not celebrating this grant. Because when I heard and listened to the presentation, there does seem to be a lot of advantages around the grant, not revenue, clearly, not revenue, but a lot of advantages that are built into that grant around workforce training, education, childcare. And those are the variables that I think would be an opportunity for the city to work with Marin Transit on if it comes to materialize, that it would be something that we could actually work on. And then the last question around, the electrification, we're all about that, right? We're trying to move forward about that. And that is where I went back to our vitality, which builds in sustainability and a lot of the work around sustainability. And this, if we could build that, be that state-of-the-art place with this federal funding plus Marin Transit match, that seems really cool. So I think we're sort of at this weird crossroads of working in partnership with Marin Transit and maybe trying to turn into a new chapter and say, okay, let's not go back. Let's not do the neighbor thing where you're threatening to take us to court. We're going to take you to court and it gets all messy. But look at it as an opportunity. And I totally understand the revenue issue, but if we want to serve our community and there's an opportunity to provide training, if there's an opportunity to provide childcare, those are funds that we don't have available, and these might be funds that we can use to benefit our community as well. So right now it's an empty lot. It's not nice to look at. It's been an empty lot for years. The hotel, a 5-story hotel with 100 and how many rooms, 180 something rooms. It was going to be huge. I don't think the community was part of that. I don't think they were providing workforce training. I know there was a decision by the council prior to my time of not having fast food there. I totally get that. That's also a revenue generator. So hotel would have been a revenue generator. No one's knocking on the door to put a hotel there. I don't see anyone really bringing forward plans to bring revenue there. So maybe we do need to think about something else.
Thank you. Let's go next. Councilmember Bushy.
Yes, yes, I'd like to go next. I would like to go next because we need to step back and put this in a historical context. This site and all of the sites covered by the general plan were the result of years, in our case, decades of planning, of thinking, of visioning how do we want this to develop? How are we going to balance the needs of the community, the needs for funding, for the SAFE team, for our childcare program, for all of the things that we fund, the police officers on the street, the firefighters that got all their pins. We fund that by tax revenue that comes in. And in order to have that stable source of funding over the decades, in order to do that, that's why we construct these particular zones. We take zones, these particular sites that have value that can be achieved only at that site. Contrast this hotel perspective site with the existing Golden Gate Transit site. No freeway frontage, set back by our friends at CMSA, great place, but the wastewater treatment plant is just not the same as freeway frontage. And that's why, that is the plan that dozens of citizens have worked on for decades. 2 of whom are sitting on this dais for decades to put in place this plan to create funding for our city so that we can balance all of these things. That's why we've done it so that we can have a plan going forward and we can capitalize on the assets that we have. A willy-nilly, because funding isn't available at the moment for this hotel site, which our economic development director has informed us hasn't even been really taken out to market. That doesn't justify undoing decades of planning, carefully, meticulously constructed planning for our community. The thought that, well, so what, we're just going to do this. That's not how it works with such a high value site. If this were some smaller site that didn't have such a major impact and such a follow-on impact of just short circuiting all of the commercial synergy that we could have, and that we planned on, that's part of that vision for that whole strip. We need to understand the impact that that would have and the public process that would be required to go back and revisit all of this is not something that can be done in 10 minutes, because $9 million is, over 20 years is huge. And the impacts of, I think they have maybe $2 million to spend on childcare. This is just these are trivial sums. They're not going to make a difference. They can't build a childcare program at a bus yard. So I think that we need to put this into the context of the city and understand the impact of the city and the time and public purpose we have put into devising this plan and what this proposal represents. That said, we should, be cooperative and is helpful if there are other sites to get to achieve these goals, because we can charge buses in many places. This is the only place we can have freeway frontage. So I think that there are better ways to do this rather than just the happenstance of an agency, whether a local agency or something else, flush with federal funds, ready to spend over their appraised value to buy the property. So that's the historical context.
Thank you. Councilmember Scolari.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I would like to start by applauding Marin Transit because they are moving their fleet to, electrifying the fleet, which is definitely the right thing to do. And so that's great. I'm really excited about that. Now, I'm very surprised about this because I work very closely with many of the board members at Marin Transit. And I just learned about these, just came back from vacation and it was like, whoa, this is happening. So I'm not used to this. Usually these decisions, there's a lot of public input. So the part that I wanted to talk about is the Canal neighborhood, my district. And we are working really hard in the city to offer a quality of life. And, the land use decisions, preserving the community character, really promoting the well-being of the neighborhood. I think it's something that we take it very seriously. We are working right now with TAM, Transportation Authority of Marin, on improving Bellam. Why? Because there is a huge traffic issue in there. Not only traffic, is safety. We always talk about there is one way in and one way out. That's it. So thank goodness, TAM is helping us maybe with some roundabouts, some different, adding bike lanes, pedestrian lanes. We are really trying to bring, some vibrant community because we know that everybody is always in the streets, walking everywhere or biking. So when you add maintenance storage place for 40 buses in the most visible place where everybody I talked about, everybody knows this location. This location is next to our Station 54 fire department. It's on the same street. So I'm not sure where they are intending to have the buses going or coming, but there is a lot of commercial traffic already existing there in addition to all the residents. The Canal, Spinnaker Point, Bay Point, they all go through the same streets. There is the UPS location that sends all the UPS trucks through that street. Everybody that is coming from Home Depot, Target, there is light industrial, there is a lot of traffic there. And now you're going to have all the buses going through that area. And it's not really serving the community. The community is already served there, which I'm very grateful for Marin Transit to have all the routes, but this is really not improving the life of any of the neighbors there. They are just meeting the operational needs of Marin Transit. I don't understand how they can actually buy that lot, and we know how government works. Right now, they are just buying the lot, and then they have to go through all the studies, and then they will bring the community input when it's too late because they are already spending all this money in this lot, which is, by the way, a lot of money. So what are they going to do? Decide that it's not possible and they are going to back up and not do it? Then it will be too late. And I'm tired of seeing too late. It's too late now, to change it. Like the bus already left. There is the equity component. We are having conversations right now at Multicultural Center about sea level rise. We are having meetings with TAM about the Bellan improvements, the 101-580 connector, which I don't agree with, but we have a lot of meetings with the community. Why aren't we having meetings with the community now before it's too late? If most of the funding for Marin Transit comes from Measure A, we depended on the community to vote for that measure. So I will imagine that the community deserves to know what is the plan, even if it's just purchasing for now, because then we have to do all these studies. Well, we know that the reason they are buying it is because they are planning to do that. And then I just wanted to mention when I was at the TAM meeting, and they were talking about childcare. Well, childcare, the workforce, are they going to bring, the drivers? They get up really early. Are they going to bring their kids at 5 a.m. To that location? They also mentioned that the location is actually not really, really big. So if they are talking, so everything they are talking about workforce development and childcare, I'm not sure how that's going to fit into that location. If you want to do childcare, maybe offer a stipend to your employees so they can have a nanny at home or some other, ways to do it. But when I hear childcare and when I hear workforce development, you can do workforce development. You don't need to have your buses and all your tires and all the maintenance that goes right in that location. It could be somewhere else in Marin County and still have workforce development and really help us, with more jobs. So ideally, I would love to see like mixed uses in there. Commercial, who knows, even maybe housing with commercial use. I mean, that would be ideal because that's what's really needed in the community. I would love for Golden Gate Transit and Marin Transit to talk to each other. They already have a location in Novato. Why are they investing in this specific place that could be something to make our neighborhood vibrant, bringing art? I mean, we're talking about so many different things that they are happening right now in the canal. Historically, if you look at inequities, where you put freeways, where you put this type of, what do you call them? I'm sorry. Corporate yards. It's always in the underserved communities. So why are we doing this? This is Marin County. It's a big county. Why are we always talking about bringing these type of locations to the canal? That to me is just wrong. So I will encourage Marin Transit to connect with Golden Gate Transit to see if they can figure it out. I agree that the idea is not to go with a legal issue. I understand Marin Transit has been looking for I don't know how many years, 10 years, 15 years. They've been looking for a location, maybe investing more again in negotiations with different agencies. And I'm willing to help them negotiate, finding a different place so we can maintain our canal as a vibrant community and really, really support everybody who lives there. So that's my little opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I was reflecting as I was listening to my colleagues speak. This is what the public process looks like, right? So all of us had slightly different takes and we were all giving input, and that's what public process. It means listening to different people. There's only 5 of us up here, but all the people that were part of the general plan process, it was to get all of those viewpoints, all of those lived experience. That's why it took several years to update our general plan. That's why that is the document that guides us, and it had community input and took the time to do the good community to get all of that. So I'm just really struck that like, this is interesting. Like, I'm really curious of what you're saying, and there are ideas coming up. Well, what if they did this? What if we talked about this? That's what the public process is for. Any other commercial development that would come to the city has a public process. So you can get at those amenities, or you can ensure that any sort of potential promises like a work training program actually manifest. That's what the process is about. And so what just gives me so much heartburn is that it is all about the public process. And to me, it looks like the subversion of what we hold most dear here in San Rafael. And that is the very, very deep engagement. Yes, we hold dear climate goals, 100%. So in a public process, that would be one of the things that would be talked about and uplifted. And the fact that it's being signaled that our general plan and all that work is going to be overridden is an anathema to the way that I and we show up as a council and as a city. We spend so much time and effort engaging with our community. And to Councilmember Micah's points, especially in underserved communities where you have to do additional engagement in order to really overcome cultural and language barriers. And two comments that I've heard, because I have talked to the board members about this, about our concerns and about this desire to have the public process. Let's talk. We can make hard decisions. We can work together for them to either change the project, and maybe it might not be something that we all love up here, but through working with the public, we at least have the opportunity to talk about it. A microtransit hub. You talked about housing over a bus yard. There's a project just like that right now going on in San Francisco today. I don't think this proposal is thinking visionary enough, big enough, creative enough. And once a bus parking lot is built, it is going to be there for 50 years plus. And so for me, when I hear, oh, we've been waiting, we haven't been able to find a site. So the fact that you haven't been able to find a site overrules the community input, overrules the vision. That's not a good enough reason for me at all. I hear about the community input. Oh, it'll happen after we acquire the site. That is disingenuous. The grant is very specific what it's for. It even goes down and talks about these other supposed amenities or pieces having to do with childcare and workforce development. That's after. Let's be clear. This acquisition is to be exactly what is written and defined in the grant. We already know what it's going to be. So as we never want to just highlight an issue without solutions, 100% disagree with overriding our general plan. I just can't stand by that. I cannot understand that. I will never be able to swallow that. So, as I said, change the project or change the general plan and come back and have a general plan amendment. Have a conversation with us. Have a conversation with the community about how we could change the general plan. We're open to having that conversation. Those are two paths forward that don't override years of work, hundreds of people that gave input into our plan. So I'm hoping, I'm sure Marin Transit is watching this. I know the public is. I hope the media is watching it, because all we're asking for is a public process, and to not have it done just through a legal government code 425, whatever Rob said it was. That's not the way that we want decisions made here in San Rafael. I think we all agree with that. So again, there were no decisions made on this tonight, and I want to appreciate my colleagues for participating and being willing to start a public process that I believe Marin Transit should have been doing what we're doing right here, right now. We will see what happens. Our city attorney has said there'll be follow-up. We know that Marin Transit has a meeting, or has currently scheduled a meeting for this Thursday. So we could know as soon as a couple days from now if this conversation has landed and resonated with the other elected officials that sit on the Marin Transit Board. I'm hoping that it does. Thank you all for your comments. I took lots of notes as you were speaking. So as this was accepting a report, I would entertain a motion on this item, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the information report on Marin Transit request for General Plan 2040 conformance determination and potential land use in the Canal neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Kurtz.
No.
Councilmember Scalati.
Aye.
Mayor Kate.
Aye, that motion carries 4-1. The last item on our agenda is open time for public expression. This is any comments from the public on anything that was not on tonight's agenda. Now is your opportunity to share your thoughts. Not seeing anyone. Oh, yes. No, go ahead. I was about to close it, but I saw your hand wave. Come on down.
Good evening, Mayor Collins, Mayor, members of the San Rafael City Council. I speak to you on behalf of the Riviera Apartment Association, Homeowners Association in East San Rafael. A few weeks ago, we received our ballots. And one of the things we noticed was that we didn't have any access to city elections, including Measure P. Now, I went on our city's website and I looked at our address. And well, we were in fact in the city of San Rafael, in fact, District 3. Thank you very much for representing us. Yet our ballots did not have it. I then looked at the county map. Nothing. I called the county registrar of voters, our friends up at the Civic Center, and they said, no, you're in unincorporated San Rafael. However, I looked at our city map on the website. I looked at the county map. I called them and they said, sorry, we can't do anything. Thankfully, to the city clerk's office, I called the city clerk. I informed them of the situation. The city clerk's staff and also our city clerk was able to investigate the situation. And in fact, we are in the city of San Rafael. And thank you. And look, it means a lot to me, okay? I was raised in the city. I just moved back a few months ago. And it's important for me to vote, as well as for my fellow community members. And so today, thankfully, thank you again for all your hard work on this. We received our updated ballots with our city elections and also Measure P, which is important. So I come to you today to say, one, thank you, right? This is an example of government working, right? Where unfortunately, one part didn't work, the other part did work. And second, I do ask respectfully that the city can just, take a look at all the boundaries because we are literally at the edge. And I hope we're not the only, I hope we are the only precinct that this is happening to. But if there is another precinct, I do hope this can be resolved because, again, we pay city taxes. It's on our property tax bill, and we have the right to vote for our representatives. It's basic civic 101. But again, huge thanks to the city. Thank you so much to our city clerk for fixing this issue. And I just want to say thank you to all.
Well, thank you. And we'll say thank you to you. Who says that one person doesn't change the course of an action? So right there, You know what? One person's action. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. Thank you, city clerk. And wow, glad someone was doing the close reading. Anyone else want to follow that? Okay, not seeing any other public comment. We are adjourning for this evening. Good night.